6010. Fantasy Focus.
Hello and welcome in, friends. I am not Daniel Dapp. I am Liz Loza with Field Yates and Stephania Bell. And is everybody awake after the Monday night doubleheader?
There's a lot of coffee on this table
There's a lot of
right there.
reinforcement happening right now.
I might have some a little Diet Coke morning for me after a coffee.
Are you a non-coffee drinker?
I do prefer tea,
Okay.
but when I'm here, I drink coffee because I'm a bit of a tea snob and I don't like the tea selection.
You know what? I can relate because I'm a coffee snob.
Sure.
But tea is what I have before bed. So I can't imagine tea getting me fired up to talk about 2 Monday Night Football games that basically cost
Put
me
you to
all my
bed?
Exactly.
Second one might have put
I
you to
needed
bed a
no
little bit.
tea last night.
Ooh, man, that was a long one. But it was the only one I think we have. I know we have 3 more doubleheaders. I believe the rest of the doubleheaders are 7 p.m. and 8:15 or like 8 p.m. and
like the
8:45.
overlapping start.
You'll get the staggered game.
How smart was it of Daniel, by the way, to be like, I'm going to take
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday off. Liz, you can go in on Tuesday.
Only one problem, though, Liz. You ever heard of Wally Pip?
I am aware of him.
Because you might be Wally Pipping Daniel today with a strong performance, which
we
we're all
will
very
see.
confident in.
I won't Wally Pip him if I don't mention that Trophy Smack, our friends over at Trophy Smack, helped us decorate this entire
sick.
set, right? TrophySmack.com. You too can decorate, listeners and viewers, your own she shed, man cave, whatever sort of area that you want to live in with adorn it with all of this wonderful glittering, these items. You can get 10% off using the promo code FOCUS10. Okay, so now, focus.
Yeah, focus.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let's do
Because
it.
we had
We got to
a-
bring it in.
So on top of the fact that we had 2 games last night, there was like a 25-minute stretch yesterday where every time I turned my phone around and I acknowledged my phone, it was like Adam Schefter quarterback news injury update. Adam Schefter more quarterback injury news update. It was wild.
Tell me something I don't know.
I know. Stefania's about to be very busy, so hydrate. Do whatever you need to do to get ready because we have an action-packed hour ahead. Let's begin.
Okay, so should we start with the Bucks at Texans game, though?
Yeah, we should. We should start there. The Bucks end up winning this game. How cool is Baker Mayfield, by the way?
Super cool.
He is
Cucumber
so,
cool.
What a gamer Baker Mayfield is. He had nearly 20 fantasy points last night, 2 touchdowns. Felt like one of those like willed the team to win efforts from Baker Mayfield.
On that last drive, he basically was more than Will.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing gymnastics down the field.
On the final drive, Baker at one point seemed to seriously hurt himself and then got right back up, started talking crap to the defensive player, was not hurt. And then like 3 plays later, he was about to get sacked, gets the ball away, but the Houston Texans pass rusher ripped his chain from around his neck, literally. So like at the end of the replay, which is in slow motion, you can see Baker's chain, which is just halfway down his back. You're like, what is going on here right now?
His eyes. You know what? Did you look at Field?
That was Just to pay homage.
That was yeah,
Just to pay homage, I threw a chain on for the show this morning here. So
I didn't
Baker
know that
Mayfield.
Field with the chain.
Well-
The YouTube chat, by the way. Hang out with our friend Eric
Oh,
Moody in
good
the
call
YouTube
out.
chat
Yeah.
and tell him, while you're asking him very important fantasy questions, we want to know what you think about Field's bling. Do we want the bling to be showing
bling?
more
More
bling
bling.
for Field,
More bling.
or do we
Also,
want to hide the bling?
Is
I'm
it
going for, like,
bling?
Justin
Is it ice?
Jefferson.
Is it drip? What are we calling
Well, it's
it?
definitely not drip. I don't know exactly what the rest of those things mean, but I do know what drip
Drip
means,
is
and I don't
close.
have much of that. No, I don't have much of it, is all I'll tell you.
You don't think this like velour orange?
velour.
You know what? I got to be
velour?
honest with you. I'll be honest with you.
Not velour.
Whatever. It's sweet is what it is.
It
and
is sweet. I
you
told you
guys,
you looked
2
handsome this
ladies, I
morning.
tell people all the time, the opinions of gentlemen, I am unbothered by. Completely unbothered. I could have 1,000 guys walk up to me and say, you have no drip and your bling is stupid and you have terrible hair. If I can have 2 women say, you look cool, that outweighs 1,000. I don't, what's the lion doesn't concern himself with the opinion of a sheep?
Oh, look at
Well, if it means anything to you, 70% of the chat is saying they need more bling.
More
for
bling.
Field.
All right, I'm bringing out more
all
bling
right.
tomorrow.
It's good.
We'll work on this
It's
tomorrow.
going to stay
Okay.
Yeah.
outside the shirt for the rest of the show.
So my big takeaway from this game was actually not Bucks related. Emeka Egbuka found the end zone again. He had under 30 receiving yards, just 4 catches, but the guy looks like the real deal.
I do want to talk about Emeka Egbuka. If you did see our fantastic crew last night got a close-up shot of him getting what we call a hip spica wrap. So they were taking an ace bandage and wrapping it around both hips and around one of his thighs. And it was interesting because it was, I can't remember if it was Joe Buck or Troy Aikman, but they commented on the next play when he was running into the end zone that he did not look like he quite had, he looked a little tighter. Now, it could be just the wrap was,
Girl, we've worn
him a little
Spanx
bit.
before.
Listen,
we know what it's like.
I know, but the difference is we know how to move because we are accustomed to it, so that it is seamless. But it did make me say, let's just pay attention to Igbuka. Keep your eye out for anything
Especially
on
as
the
a rookie.
injury report for this week.
So I did not really have good call there on Ibuka. We'll monitor his status with the Jets this upcoming weekend, obviously on a shorter week for Tampa. I didn't have a dramatic takeaway from the Bucs last night, something that totally caught me off guard or a player who has totally underperformed expectations. We talked about this coming into the game. Mike Evans drew arguably the best corner in the NFL, Derek Stingley.
So good
he got
him.
10 targets. That's fine. To me, we need to talk about this Texans offense. And we came into the season with very, very low expectations for the Texans backfield. The fact that Nick Chubb got 15 fantasy points is nice. I don't think it's sustainable. He got there. He was averaging 1.8 yards per carry prior to the 25.
Into the end zone. And I was
great.
happy for him personally.
Yep.
But I also think it was a little bit of trickery for you if you're thinking for fantasy purposes.
Right.
Actually, what I liked was what I saw of Woody Marks. Because not the utilization, but just there were a couple runs that he had where he looked like the reason that they brought him to the Houston Texans.
But I think that for me, I still feel as though this Texans backfield is largely a stay away, especially in PPR scoring where Nick Chubb had 2 catches last night, which is a lot for Nick Chubb. To me, I think all the focus on last night's game for those that play or have Nico Collins is 9 targets sounds good. And it is good, right? 9 targets is a good number for Nico Collins.
And a spectacular catch.
But it took a spectacular catch
Spectacular.
to salvage a night. This Texans offense is completely out of sorts. The offensive line is on the short list for worst in the NFL in pass protection, not a whole lot better for run blocking as well. And there's just not enough time right now for CJ Stroud to do the damage with Nico Collins that we saw last season. I understand it's early. I understand they had a lot of changes. But if you drafted Nico Collins, you probably did so very early. I was a strong advocate for Nico Collins coming into this season. They got to get it right in a hurry because the problem for the Houston Texans is when their number one wide receiver isn't doing damage, they don't have nearly enough out cards to play. Who else in the Texans offense right now? I mean, right now, start of week 3, can you say to yourself, that guy's a difference maker? Maybe one of their 2 rookie wide receivers, Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel, gets there in time.
So spotty. It's you can't count on it for fantasy purposes.
You can't count
whatsoever.
on it. And oh, by the way, for the past couple of seasons, it's felt like the AFC South winner, the Houston Texans, could kind of just get there on the strength of the crappiness of the rest of the division. They're 0-2 now.
Yeah.
They don't have time to mess around anymore going forward. They have a grand total of 3 touchdowns in 2 games of the Houston Texans. 3 in 2 games. That's not good enough. CJ Stroud has now gone 13 out of 19 games with under 2 passing touchdowns. This offense needs to get going in a hurry, and it has hurt Nico Collins. To me, he is no longer, for this week, he is not a top 10 wide receiver option.
I think that's a really cogent point to make. Also, 3 catches out of 9 targets. Volume is king, but we'd like to see more efficiency out of a potential number 1.
And the counter is if he catches one of those 2 end zone targets late, that's fine. The operation's all out of whack right now for the Texans. If not for the second game that took place, maybe my frustration surrounding Nico Collins would be greater. But I think if you stayed up for last night's game, you probably went into the game with some hope and some optimism and some expectations. I think you left that game, and I know this is going to sound a little bit alarmist, a little bit overreacting, and that's fine to a degree. I think we need to start to have the conversation about whether each of the 2 running backs taken in the first round of the real NFL draft.
We're talking about Chargers at Raiders, right?
Chargers or Raiders now, yep. Which the Chargers win convincingly 20-9. Geno Smith was bad. The Raiders offense was terrible. We need to have the conversation about whether these 2 rookie running backs are entering bust territory for this season. And I know that it sounds like it's only 2 weeks. How can you say that? Here's the problem that we have is let's talk through it with both of these players. Ashton Genty, who last night had a total of 43 rushing yards.
On 11 carries.
11 carries for 43 yards, a long of 12 yards. Ashton Genty had a measly 3 rushing yards prior to contact last night. Check this out. So far this season, the Raiders are averaging negative 0.23 yards before carry on running back rushing attempts. We throw out quarterback attempts because A, they don't matter for running back fantasy conversations, and B, sometimes one quarterback scramble can go for 25 yards where he's untouched. He just rolls out and runs up the sideline, and it skews the numbers. Think about that. Negative 0.23 yards before contact per carry. That's dead last in the NFL. Unsurprisingly, the only team in the NFL with a negative yards gained before contact per carry. On top of that, at least you could hang your hat on the volume and the snaps for Ashton Jeanty in week 1. 21 opportunities, and he played 86% of the snaps. Last night, he had 14 opportunities, 11 rushes for 43 yards, 3 catches for 1 yard. 1 yard for Ashton Jeanty, which means in 2 games, he has 5 catches for 3 yards. On top of that, he played 56% of the snaps last night. Dylan Laube was out there. Zamir White was playing a lot of the third down snaps. Less than 1/3 of the third down snaps last night went to Ashton Jeanty. I don't know how you can't be petrified about this situation for a guy that was going in the first round. He's got perhaps the worst offensive line in the entire NFL. The volume is fine, but not incredible. And if he's going to be ceding valuable third down work to other running backs in his offense, it's not a top 10 player in fantasy. It's not a top 10 running back in fantasy. It might not be even a top 20 running back in fantasy.
Well, I think we expected that the efficiency of this offense would improve. There would be more stability at the quarterback position with Geno Smith coming in. And we knew that Jeanty profiled as an every down back given what he did at Boise State, right? And so he did see 4 targets, but I don't think the offense is firing on enough cylinders for him to be efficient or effective enough, and that is becoming part of the problem. Now, you don't want to say of a player that is Ashton Jeanty that has such high draft pedigree that he could be phased out of a game with game script. A running back that you take in the first round is not able to be phased out this much. So I think that is the holistic. If we're looking at the entire environment, the problem is that.
It's a problem. I just think it's a problem. On top of that, it's a problem for the Raiders because they took a player 6th overall at a position where, yes, we've seen a bit of a running back resurgence. We also know that you can enter Bill Krosky-Merritt, 7th-round running backs that can play meaningful snaps for you in the NFL. So it's a real problem. Again, I'm talking about week 3 for now.
I hear you.
Going forward, to me, it's like this is a real red flag.
So just to pull the curtain back, and to be honest, I was very loud about my support of Ashton Jeanty at the top of the season. I'm not going to shy away from it. And I think that you are completely on point because as someone who has a lot of shares of him, I am nervous. I am not thinking like, oh, this is fine. Like, I am panicked about it. Yep. And so I can understand and would encourage fantasy managers to also feel panicked about it. It is not an alarmist point. It is it is something that needs to be discussed and monitored. We can't shy away from it.
So here's the question. What's actionable out of that? Are you saying do not start Ashton Jeanty week 3? I wanted to look at who they were, because part of it is the offensive line. He's not getting any lanes to run, as everything you pointed out by the metrics. But even if you just watch the game, like it's a swarm to him, and it's
there's a cohesion
virtually impossible, right? So it's Washington. They play at Washington.
At Washington, potentially.
Then home to the Bears. Then at the Colts and Tennessee, who looks pretty good. And then at the Chiefs. Yeah.
Well, the Bears will help him.
The actionable is this, Stephania, is for now, he's staying in your lineups. But there are scenarios in which, like, I'll just give you a random name that this may sound insane. But if you drafted Ashton Jeanty as your RB1 and you drafted, pick a random RB2 that you think, Alvin Kamara is your RB2, and you drafted Javonte Williams as your RB3.
I was just thinking Javonte Williams.
Right? Like, just think about somebody like that where you're like, all right, am I going to make a decision to bench Ashton Jeanty potentially for Javonte Williams? If things keep going for each of those players for yet another week or 2, that could be the case. For now, he has moved dramatically down my rankings. He's much closer to 20 than he is RB5 or 6, which, again, that was his preseason ranking. All right, so the next part of this equation is, of course, Omarion Hampton. Wasn't drafted as high, but I think Hampton buzzed even more during the preseason, just like the interest in taking him. He soared up draft boards in terms of ADP.
More approachable, more enticing.
How about this? So I mentioned that the Raiders are dead last in running back ranks and yards gained before contact per carry. The Chargers are 30th, 0.22 yards gained before contact per carry. On top of that, as we know, there's 2 backs in this backfield in Los Angeles that do matter. Najee Harris had 8 carries, as did Hampton last night. On top of that, not a lot of passing game utilization for Omari and Hampton. On top of that, the Chargers are an aggressive passing offense now. When they drafted Omari and Hampton, it was, let's imagine a world in which Omari and Hampton is the guy in this backfield with a nasty offensive line and a coordinator who wants to ground and pound his way to wins in Greg Roman. None of those are taking place right now. So there's less frustration for me surrounding Omari and Hampton because he was going in like the 3rd round as opposed to the 1st round. But make no mistake about it. He, like Ashton Genty, has moved way down my rankings, and there's a world in which Omari and Hampton is not in your lineup as soon as this weekend.
That seems a little severe. I don't know. I mean,
again, the same logic applies. Like if Omari and Hampton was your 2nd running back and you've got Bucky Irving and Javonte Williams, can you tell me right now definitively that if you had Javonte Williams,
The Chargers playing.
right.
the Broncos,
Look
they're
at
playing the
this.
Broncos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
the Broncos.
Yep.
yeah.
Can you imagine that? But just imagine you have.
Well, it's the
that's-
Najee Harris piece that makes it a little bit more concerning. I mean, they split the backfield fairly evenly. And, I mean, I think the fumble is an issue here, too. On the, penultimate play that gave the Raiders just a little bit of hope. That's a moment where you would hope the rookie not have a rookie situation. And given this coaching staff, I'm not sure it'll be forgiven so lightly.
Basically 6 fantasy points per game through 2 games for Hampton. I understand this all sounds very, very, very alarmist this early on in the season. The thing is, you're looking for things that have taken place and the things that can change. Genty is the one, to me, that is scarier because I'm not sure how likely the offensive line is to get better with the Chargers because they're such a good team. They might have games where they're bludgeoning teams and they just turn to the running game and they say, even if we're already up 24-0, here's 20 carries for Omari and Hampton.
I want to talk about one other player in this game who is invisible, and that was Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
And I think, we all talked about, is Brock Bowers going to play in this game? And we were all excited he was going to play. But even in warmups, he didn't look right. And I thought to myself, oh boy, he's going to be out there, but he's not going to be Brock Bowers-like. And here is my question to the Raiders. Why did you run so much of that 11 personnel and use Brock Bowers and not use Michael Mayer, who's proven himself to be a capable pass-catching tight end? And Brock Bowers wasn't fooling anyone. He wasn't 100% right. And so it's just a reminder that sometimes when players play, now we didn't know everything was optimistic. We know Pete Carroll was optimistic about how he looked on Saturday. I at least expected that he probably looked like a guy that they would actually use and target in the way that they normally do. But it was disappointing to me, enough to make me want to watch what happens with him this week. I don't think I'm saying take Brock Bowers out for next week. But, if people want to complain, fantasy managers, I hear you, I feel you, because you thought you were getting Brock Bowers, and you really didn't.
But on a short week and at Washington, so an away game across the country, are you at all concerned? Would he be ranked in? I mean, this is a player who's consistently ranked the tight end 1 or tight end 2.
Right.
Are you moving him outside of those top 2, given the short
I
week and the
might,
issues?
depending on what he does during the week. I mean, this will be a day-by-day monitoring, because if he doesn't practice all week and we get to Friday and that's the first time he does, I'd be a little concerned.
And the irony of it all, 8.8 fantasy points for Brock Bowers is like tight end 5 for the week.
I know.
Because it's such, I mean, it's not
It's
actually
Actually,
that.
tight end.
It might be tight end 10 or something,
he's outside the top 10.
Okay, but
1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah, there's
5,
nobody
6,
that
7,
was
8,
reasonably
9.
available that you're like, yeah. So this is a
Harold
trap.
Fannin Jr. was ahead of him. I beg your pardon.
This is a trap though, where it's like you have no choice with Brock Bowers. It's just, again, like what some of these things, is there an actionable? No, because the actionable is just, you're just disappointed because the player is not going to pay off at the cost that you actually use to acquire him.
But these are the facts, so let's illuminate them. Also, let's illuminate the quarterback position, another island position. I'm going to read the top 10 scorers at the position. Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Mac Jones, Spencer Rattler, Bryce Young in week 1.
Lamar
In
holding it
The fact
week
that you said
2.
Mac Jones and Spencer Rattler right there is something.
So all over the place. But now that we have these injuries, I think that it's an interesting conversation to have, because we have names that are in the mix who are putting up points, and we do have significant injuries. three particular players.
Yeah.
I want to start, obviously, with Joe Burrow here.
Yeah, so for waiver wire now?
Yes,
You want to do it?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so let's
yes.
do the waiver wire.
So
And
we're
we'll do
missing-
to me, there are 4 players that are absolute must-adds this week. I have a 5th, but I'm kind of pairing it with number 4. I can get to my quarterback must-add, but anything that you want to add to the Joe Burrow news compared to where we were yesterday?
I think just, that when we were talking in the morning, we were talking about it potentially being severe. Now we know that he is definitively having surgery. The recovery time from surgery runs on the order of 12 to 14 weeks for clearance to return to play. And what I would say is, we know return to play, not necessarily return to performance. And then don't forget, we don't know how the Bengals will be doing at that point. Everybody heals at a different rate. So there's no lock on Joe Burrow coming back this season. That's the main point.
Okay, so I'm not going to bury the lead on a couple of other quarterback injuries, but you guys are all aware there are more beyond Joe Burrow that took place this past weekend. But Daniel Jones is a must-add. He is the must-add of all must-adds this week because of the position he plays. You mentioned that island spot. He is available on ESPN.com in 78.8% of leagues.
I think I've already put in a request in like 5 different
Yeah,
leagues.
yeah, probably
If you had
wisely
told me
so, yeah.
preseason that I'd be Daniel Jones across the board at number 1 waiver wire ad, I would not have believed you.
Rushing touchdown in both games so far this season.
Yep.
He has not thrown an interception or fumbled the ball so far this season. He had over 300 passing yards, probably. But he's been a top 10 scorer at the position each of the first 2 weeks. The first week was against Cupcake City. Miami looks like the worst defense in the NFL. But the revenge that Danny Dimes got, not the revenge, but the validation he got in week 2 was doing it against an awesome Broncos defense.
Correct.
I don't know that we can go ahead and say he's totally matchup proof. There's a lot of football ahead. A lot of things happen in the first 2 weeks that don't look like reality by like week 5 or 6. Given where we are right now, given how well he is playing, Danny Dimes is the number 1 must-add of the week. He's a priority for anybody that has Joe Burrow or some of the other quarterback injury updates that we'll discuss when I get to my other quarterback names of note. Next player that I think is a must-add, and I'm building off a little bit of what Adam Schefter said on Sunday, is Bashal Tootin. Running back,
Rootin' tootin'.
Jacksonville Jaguars, yes. And Shefty, I was talking to our producers after the fact, and they were saying after our show on Fantasy Football Now, and they were like, Shefty, sometimes with Schefter, it's not like they have to go through his segment with a fine-tooth comb and say like, hey, how does this look for a tee-up? More so Shefty, because he's got all the news, just says like, ask me about these 3 guys, whatever you want to say. And so the tee up on Sunday to Shefty was like, hey, I know the Eagles made a trade for Tank Bigsby. Anything you want to say on that? And he was like, yes, Bashal Tootin is going to explode, or is going to have, let me rephrase that. He is going to have a growing role throughout the season. I would be adding him. Obviously, with one less back in the backfield, that stood to reason, but we saw it right away pay off. He had a receiving touchdown.
One of the 18.
Travis Etienne. Yep. I just combined their names twice. Travis Etienne was once again really good for the Jaguars in week 2, and he could absolutely keep the job for the rest of the season. But if there is a guy that is perhaps a touch vulnerable to losing more work, and given how few running backs are actually worth adding off the waiver wire in general, that's why I believe that we should be adding Bashal Tootin so far this week. He's available in 60% of leagues on ESPN.com.
Is there a world field, just before you move on to the next
Yeah.
player, that you would maybe consider, based on this news and based on the data we received in week 2, potentially selling high on Travis Etienne?
Potentially, yeah, but there's another good. I completely forgot Etienne is a great example of if you went Ashton Genty plus Alvin Kamara plus Travis Etienne, who were you guys sitting in week 3 out of those 3?
What were my choices? Ashton?
Yep. Kamara
And Etienne.
Etienne.
Probably Etienne.
Jags are at Titans.
I mean, it's at least a conversation. I'm just saying that we have
I know.
quickly
The fact
gotten
that we
to
took
that
a beat.
point. Yeah, that to me is illustrative of the struggles that those 2 rookies have had. So I would not sell high on Travis Etienne unless I smoked it in the draft and I got 2 good running backs and I got Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne, just because there are so many other spots where I'm already like, oh my God, are we in dead zones in Seattle and other spots? And, injuries at running back do often pile up during the course of the season. There are a couple of guys that we had high hopes for that haven't performed. So I'm generally holding on running backs right
Just to clarify, Jacksonville hosting Houston
now. Okay.
next week. Next player.
Juwan Johnson, who we talked about how Brock
Tight end
Bowers,
3
despite
on the
it,
week.
and Juwan Johnson, so at a really, really difficult spot to find starters. I mean, really difficult. Right now, and I will include Brock Bowers in this portion of the conversation, I believe there are unequivocal locks at tight end that include the following players. Brock Bowers, I believe Trey McBride, I believe Tyler Warren, I believe Sam Laporta. That's about it. And I believe Juwan Johnson. I might have forgotten one name there. Apologies if I did. One obvious name, but there aren't many of them.
Jake Ferguson, did you say him?
I did not, but even he had, he's probably close. He's been good. He's been good.
Decent.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like
consistent.
he is, but consistency enough that I know that Dak is looking for him. So he's
Right.
a guy I would throw in there.
So I think that Juwan Johnson has at least approached that conversation. He's playing basically every snap for the Saints. He has a touchdown in back-to-back games. It's a high-volume passing offense because they're often going to play from behind.
Yes.
And it's a very fast-paced offense as well. That's a staple of a Kellen Moore offense. It's tempo, 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 tempo. Tempo means more opportunities if you are moving with relative efficiency. So Juwan Johnson, who I get it.
Shout out Daniel Dopp for being a year too early on Juwan Johnson. Do you remember last year he kept trying to speak it into existence?
Yeah. And he's not,
Sorry, bud.
we've said this a few times, he's not Sam Laporta level of star, but this is not a complete random, this guy's going to come back down to earth. He makes $11 million a year, right? He is probably one of the, I'd guess, 12 highest paid tight ends in the NFL. He's a player the Saints reinvested in for real money.
Yep.
And Kellen Moore was complimentary of him throughout the offseason. Perhaps we should have seen this coming a little bit more. We weren't talking a whole lot about the Saints this preseason.
Situation makes him particularly enticing and available in over 50% of ESPN fantasy leagues.
Yes, indeed. The last two must grab, and I'm going to put them into one category. Falcons defense and special teams. They play the Panthers this weekend.
Yeah. I already added them in one league.
Okay, good, yeah.
Because I saw it in week 1. I was like, ooh.
They look good
Falcons
in week
defense
one, yeah.
looks pretty good.
The
And I don't
retooling
think
worked.
I was expecting it. They are the number 1 defense in scoring this week.
Yeah, they are. They have totally revamped their pass rush, and the Panthers have been a mess, right? The Panthers this past weekend allowed a strip sack, fumble return for a touchdown against the Cardinals. Falcons in this category, I would throw the Seahawks in that category as well. They play the Saints. The Saints, of course, an offense that, despite some of the good things they have contributed to Juwan Johnson's outlook, are still an offense that we like our defense is facing. So I gave you 4, call it 4.5. Those are must-adds. I don't care what league you're playing in. All of those guys should be added. But that's it for me, because I am trying to be very judicious here. Unlike you must be adding these players. I want to be stone cold locks. The next group is my speculating group. Certainly can be added. If you're a roster tinkerer and you want to hit that waiver wire, go for it. 12-team leagues, probably going to be added. But not absolute stone cold locks in 10-team leagues. First up, Wan'Dale Robinson, who has 18 targets for the Giants in 2 games so far this season. We mentioned in week 2, he had his first game ever with over 100 receiving yards. He had previously reached 100 on the nose during his rookie season. I don't know that the Giants are going to be nearly as effective throwing the football this week against Kansas City as they were last week against the Cowboys. That being said, Wan'Dale, ton of volume. Maybe you think he's only a PPR guy. That's okay. Our default scoring is PPR. Troy Franklin. We talked about him a little bit yesterday on the show, but this might be bad things for Cortland Sutton managers. But the Broncos have a player that they seem to think could be, at least in some games, the focal point of their passing game. He was very heavily targeted in week 2. He's a very fast receiver. He didn't time well during the pre-draft process, but he's got legit play speed. Him and Bo Nix have been playing together for half a decade now, so there's certainly plenty of institutional knowledge between those two and trust. Troy Franklin, a guy that has my attention, even though he had a quiet week 1. That's why he's not in the must-grab waiver pickups.
There was a little bit of a drumbeat for him over the summer as well.
Yep.
We just weren't really listening to it, I think, because we were listening to the Evan Ingram potential drumbeat or the Marvin Mims drumbeat, right? But it is the Troy
You
Franklin
got me
drumbeat.
hooked on Marvin
I
Mims,
know.
and I picked him up in 3
Did it to
leagues,
myself,
and
too.
now I am. What happened to Marvin Mims?
Yeah.
They
just
you know
have
what's
so many
weird?
guys.
Yeah, but also
He
I
found the
feel
end
like the
zone.
Marvin. Yeah, but I feel like the Marvin Mims story from last year was yay, Marvin Mims, and then absent Marvin
And that he
Mims.
might pick
and then,
up where he left off,
exactly. And so you expected this growth and just haven't seen it. And I'm kind of like, maybe I'm interested in Troy Franklin now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the tag board. I think we have a couple of questions on the tag board. Let's take a look at those.
What do we got?
I am waiting for us to get to them.
Well, Troy Franklin, in the meantime, while we wait for those, is available in 98% of leagues. There we go, from Scott.
All right. Is that velour Field is wearing? That's what I thought it was.
I know.
1977 called and wants that shirt back. All
First
right.
of all, it's not velour.
sure?
I touched it.
Yeah.
I know, but
I did.
Okay.
felt-
I didn't touch
You
it.
know what it feels like? It's like that soft terry.
Terry cloth. I believe.
It's like, yeah, but it's super soft. Like, I love soft. Like, I would.
It's
I
giving
would wear
surfer
something.
vibes, which is
Yeah,
not
it totally
necessarily
is.
your
It's
vibe, but
although with
Working
the long
towards it.
hair, I know we're getting there.
Working towards it. Yeah. Negotiations continue on potentially cutting the hair, but
no, don't do it,
No,
Samson.
no.
Don't do it.
1977.
No,
Come on, I wasn't
no.
even alive.
No,
back
you
then.
weren't.
could
By
make
the way, if it was
1977
1977, it would have been a T-shirt and it would have been tighter and it would have had cap sleeves.
Next
joke.
week.
Is that when you fold them up like this?
No, but
To-
it's like the
store your
the
cigarettes?
hem around the sleeve. Oh,
Nikki, like it's a
that's
grease.
the 50s.
No, that's the 50s. Yeah.
I was also not alive in the 50s.
Let's
so-
look at another one. We
Let's
have
move
another
on
one that I
before
want to
we
take
have
a look
to
at.
start acknowledging. A Flavor
Logan
Flav.
T. Field needs a Flava Flav clock chain.
It's kind of like
what?
where'd that
There's that champ one.
Where'd that
Or that champ one.
The champ one.
From
Yeah, you
our
don't want to lose her.
Trophy
Put
Smack
that
buddies.
Put that on only.
Whoops. Oh, he just knocked your 49ers
microphone.
helmet off and the mic. There is
I'm in the
chaos.
studio. Oh, my poor 49ers.
This is awesome. I love this right
You
here.
cannot be the champ.
gotta pull
and
it
have
up.
49ers on the ground.
All right, show him. Show the people, Field.
I know.
Champ.
If only that were a clock, but the chain is the right size. Okay,
All right.
All right.
Rocking it for the rest of the show.
just a moment to restore my 49ers.
Oh, sorry about
Its
that.
rightful place.
And if you're restoring things that are, maybe a little bit dusty, then that's the perfect segue to
Wow, your
next
next
here.
pickup. And there's a case to put Zach Ertz higher up in this segment. But again, I'm trying to be diligent on like 10-team must add. So Zach Ertz, who's available in exactly 50% of leagues, does have a touchdown in back-to-back games. He also, Stephania, might be without his quarterback this week.
I know. I was going to say, Zach Ertz left for dead years ago and just keeps being a consistent, solid tight end and proved to be last year somebody that would help Jaden Daniels out. It was somebody that he could trust. Well, now, will it be Jaden Daniels throwing him the ball this week? Apparently suffered a knee sprain. If you were watching the game last week, you saw him a little bit gimpy after he took a hit to the outside of his knee. All we're hearing is that it's a sprain, reportedly no major injury. Had a big ice pack on when he left. But Dan Quinn, I went back and looked at the presser with Dan Quinn, and he was very specific in his remarks about Jaden Daniels, which, frankly, thank you, Dan Quinn. We appreciate the clarity. But what he said was he will have to meet all of his benchmarks for him to play. And he goes, Jaden's a runner and he needs to be able to pivot. He needs to be able to decelerate. He needs to be able to, and he went through all the things. I was like, sounds like you've been talking to a member of the rehab staff. But all of it was like, we're not putting him out there if he can't do those things cleanly and doesn't feel 100%. All of which makes me think it is more likely than less likely that we do not see Jaden Daniels this week.
Again, they play the Raiders at home on Sunday. And he's a very, very, very tough player. Remember last year he was seemingly doubtful to play against the Bears because of that ab injury, and then he ended up playing. Not ruling anything out with Jaden Daniels, but at least prepare for the possibility of him not being available.
Dan Quinn said he'd take it to Friday. So the good news is it sounds like you're going to know ahead of time. You're going to have plenty of time, but just be prepared.
I spilled my cafecito here, which was done by me. but I'll clean it up in just a minute.
The rest of us can't have drinks
We are
in the studio.
we are in mid-season form.
Yeah, we are. Kyle Soppe, great call out, by the way, notes that Tucker Kraft has probably entered his name into the must-start tight end conversation. So good call there. Moving on. If you need him type players, and this would be either a deep league or you need a quarterback replacement, because there is at least a chance that we will not have Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels and Stephania, two other quarterbacks, including one in Minnesota.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy had a right high ankle sprain, which I didn't see during the game.
Yeah.
He played through, give the kid credit for playing through. It looked like it just might be a minor thing for his ankle, but now Adam Schefter's saying that he's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. So I just want to acknowledge that people hear high ankle sprain, they're like, no way is it 2 to 4 weeks, because we think with a high ankle sprain it's always longer. Not necessarily. If it's a very mild high ankle sprain, 2 to 4 weeks is reasonable. The high ankle sprain is different because it's an injury that happens higher up. That's why it's called high. But it's also not just, people think of rolling your ankle, like a basketball sprain, like you roll your ankle. But a high ankle sprain is more of a twisting injury. Like your leg gets rotated one direction inward relative to your foot rotating outward. And then it makes it impossible to plant, and it makes it really hard to change direction. It also makes it hard to just advance over that ankle to bear normal weight. So it's a little trickier than you might think. But if it's mild, and what they did with JJ was they taped him back up. They call it spatting. They put tape over the outside of the cleat and the shoe to try and make that ankle as stiff as possible. That's how he finished the game. Sometimes with extra tape like that, you can move a little bit more quickly. So I would plan on him being out. Like they've made it clear, it's not likely that he's going to go, but Carson Wentz will come in and start for him. I don't know how long it will be. I would not assume it's going to be a really long time.
Very interesting battle of the backups, because Cincinnati is at the Vikings in week 3. So we're looking at Jake Browning and, as you mentioned, Carson Wentz.
I just want to clarify right now, if my app will open, my Wi-Fi is no good here. I don't believe that J.J. McCarthy is yet IR eligible, people, because while it has been reported by Shefty that he's 2 to 4 weeks likely to miss, the team just called him unlikely to play this weekend, right? So just a reminder, we follow the team's statuses for reasons that we've explained many times before.
Yeah, it also just so happens to be the same leg that he had that massive meniscal repair on. So, you're going to be smart with your franchise quarterback.
So if you are missing one of these players and you did not get Daniel Jones field,
Michael Penix Jr. is intriguing to me for this reason. He plays the Panthers this weekend. This past Sunday night, we saw why Michael Penix Jr. can have real boom-bust Jared Goff-like nature to his game. In a game in which Atlanta played excellent defense, which we think might have a chance to keep up this week against the Panthers. Penix was hardly throwing the football at all. On top of that, he can run. He's way more mobile than Jared Goff, but it's not a real staple to his game at this time. That being said, he's available in nearly 72% of leagues. The Panthers are clearly amongst the league's weakest defenses in. And it's just a problem all year for them. So Penix Jr. has my attention, as does Mac Jones, who is available in nearly 98.6% of leagues. Mac was great this past weekend for the 49ers. It was not a tough matchup against the Saints. I will also acknowledge that going on the road, having no George Kittle, having a totally reshaped room of wide receivers compared to what we are normally accustomed to, where it's backup quarterbacks throwing to Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. Like, I think we deserve, Mac deserves some real praise for how he performed this past weekend. They play the Cardinals this week.
They do. I was just going to say, the Cardinals defense has been looking pretty good. But the nice thing for the 49ers is their home opener, so they don't have to travel this week. So that does help them out. Yep. You might have another quarterback out as you're looking to bring Mac Jones in, because Justin Fields suffered a concussion in last week's game. And, as we talk about all the time on this show, nonlinear progressions, it's a criterion-based progression, not a time-based progression.
Yeah, so we'll see. And Aaron Glenn, the Jets head coach, only said that it's hard for a player to play if he doesn't practice. So we got to see Justin Fields back on the practice field in order to see him play on Sunday. We have seen players miss all week, clear concussion protocol on Saturday, and then play on Sunday. You could throw names like Matthew Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa, although I'm very nervous Thursday night at Buffalo. That gives me that definitely gives me pause. But one more name, and this is a deep league name. It's a name that, until the Tennessee offense gets going a little bit more than it has in the first 2 weeks, it's going to be really hard to start. But back-to-back games with at least 6 targets. Alec Ayomanor, Titans rookie wide receiver, who caught the first Cam Ward touchdown pass of his career this past Sunday. Did you guys see that play?
That was a crazy play.
Ridiculous. I mean, it was
that's the play where that everyone's thinking, don't throw it, don't throw it, don't throw it.
Yeah.
And then he throws it, and it's perfectly placed.
Yeah, it was a callback to his college tape where it was razzle-dazzle, backyard football at times, but there's some magic to Cam Ward. I'm excited. The numbers have been terrible. The fantasy numbers have been awful. But Cam Ward gives me some optimism going forward. If you're a Dynasty League player and you have Cam Ward, that player is going to be useful for you going forward. But
I think you can
Manor,
give yourself some kudos here because you called out Io Manor throughout the preseason.
He was my longest shot.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Shefty in the preseason. So I've got him as like my last bench player in a handful of leagues. So I'm interested. I like this player a lot. I think he's going to be a part of Tennessee's future going forward. So those are the names. I kept it a little bit tighter than usual because I don't want to waste your time with 30 names that are 25 of which are mostly for people that play in 16-team leagues like the Warham League or something.
Just want to throw out one other injury to keep your eye on, and that's Aaron Jones suffered a hamstring injury in this game, unfortunately. And we've seen he's had hamstring injuries before in the past. When he's had them, he's come back solid. Aaron Jones has the pass catching to his name. That's why, Jordan Mason, I know you love Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason's going to get more run if Aaron Jones is out, but more run being the operative phrase because he is not a pass catcher, and Aaron Jones has helped J.J. McCarthy. I don't really know what we're going to make of the offense here because we don't know exactly how it's going to look if J.J.'s out. But
we do have faith that Kevin O'Connell will figure something out, though.
Yes, I believe he will.
We're going to dive more into this over the next 3 days as people kind of turn their attention fully to week 3.
Okay.
I think that, no, I was just but I think there's a chance that things get better in a hurry for this Vikings offense. Now, there's a chance that it gets worse, right? But it's not a very high bar for Carson Wentz to clear right now with J.J. McCarthy, right? 7 catches total for Justin Jefferson through 2 games. T.J. Hawkinson has been unstartable through 2 games. It has not been the Vikings offense that we are accustomed to. So
isn't it weird though that Carson Wentz didn't do any training camp? He hasn't played. Yeah. I'd just be curious to see. How does he look?
Yeah, the things that he has going for him that JJ does, right, is that he's just seen stuff. Yeah, he's seen a lot of stuff that JJ hasn't yet seen at the NFL level. So I'm not guaranteeing you the things. I don't feel dramatically better because Carson Wentz is in there over JJ McCarthy, but I don't feel worse either, if that makes sense.
I appreciate that you take these dramatic pauses, Field.
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
Keeps me on the edge of my seat. I wasn't quite sure I was waiting for it. It was beautiful.
That's what I'm here for.
Now let's move ahead, as long as this is no longer a pause, but we are moving indeed ahead to a segment called Field in the Blank.
Boom. I see what you did there. Here we go. Coming off of his week 2 performance, week 3 could make or break Travion Henderson's value as a starter. And his value as a starter may already be behind us for now, right? Let's just talk a little bit about what went wrong for Henderson in week 2 for those that didn't watch the game super closely. He was playing early. The Patriots offense actually played well this past Sunday. Henderson had a couple of catches, 2 for 30 yards. He had a few carries as well. He ended up having 3 penalties, 1 on special teams and 2 on offense this past weekend, and struggled in pass protection. The Dolphins were trying to basically put Drake May under siege, and Henderson just didn't really have it. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Mike Vrabel noted that the Patriots' best offensive play of the game, this wheel route to Ramondre Henderson, was actually designed. I'm sorry, I did that again.
You're marrying these running backs.
I keep doing that.
Okay.
Ramondre Stevenson had a long catch, like a 55-yard catch. It was a play that Vrabel said was designed and run during practice for Henderson. So I won't go as far as saying he was flat benched because he ended up coming back into the game later. But Henderson definitely saw a reduced role. And it was a reminder, for as excited as I am about this player, I think all of us are, I think the Patriots are, there are still some elements of his game that he needs to be better in to stay on the field more often.
But they did that with Ramondre Stevenson before, too. Remember? Because when there were ball security issues, then it was like, now he's in the doghouse. Yeah. And so I think either of these players has the opportunity to hot potato it back to the other one. And I think that it's like you said, they have Travion Henderson there for a reason. Yeah. They like him.
But when you look at the ADP, I mean, Henderson was, I believe, 50th overall.
Well, and he was vaulting upward. The trajectory was so strong late in the season.
Outside of the top 100
right.
overall
There's no
pick.
question about the value if Ramondre has a bigger role.
Yeah.
I just it's interesting because it could make or break his value as a starter. You think for week 3, or are we talking this season?
I would just say this. It's like I think we'll learn something this weekend about Henderson. If we go into week 3 and he barely plays, you say to yourself, okay, the Patriots, they think they can sort of scratch and claw their way into maybe back end of the wild card contention. And while Henderson's a big part of the future, there are things that go beyond the box score. Pass protection, lining up correctly, the intangibles, if you will, of running back.
Play.
That he is not yet at the level they need him to be at. And so you're going to have to be very, very patient. I would not be starting him in week 3.
So I had a little just fun on my own looking
at
your
fill
field
in.
in the blanks.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to pick a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even though this is not my segment, it's field in
it's
the
everybody's
blanks.
segments,
But
yeah.
I just wanted to like play along and see.
Bell in the blanks. Yeah, why not?
Well, because there weren't that many people. I was like, how many people is it make or break value?
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr.
I felt like I had gotten some stuff off my chest yesterday that I wanted to leave it be. But yes, I mean, yes.
What do you think of my choice there?
I think it's a great choice. It's going to be hard.
Because it's right, like invisible.
Put it this way. You know the Tyreek Hill Tua, like icy vibes thing going on last year?
And last year and I don't know, part of this year.
But at least better so far this year,
better.
right? He had 109 yards this past week on 6 catches.
Right.
Like you'll sign up for that from Tyreek. The early stages of that feel like they're taking place right now in Jacksonville. I don't know what the relationship is between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. The on-field relationship ain't great.
Yeah.
So
12 targets. It's hard
That
to shy
part's
away
good.
from 12 targets,
Yes,
right?
yes,
but
that is, yeah.
but
But they are out of sync. Like
4
if you could
catches.
put out of sync into a statistical category, which frankly I think we should figure out how to do because
Mike
there's
Clay.
a lot with that. I know. Him and his boring like actual numbers. But there is an out of sync thing. Well, Trevor Lawrence looks just generally out of sync more than I think we all thought it would get better by the time the season started. We talked about his footwork being changed, Liam Cohen really wanting him to work on adapting his footwork. And we thought those changes were progressing. And I don't know. It
Yes,
feels
the
like he's taking
reclamation
a step
project
back.
that no one can say no to.
Right.
Yep.
And then now all of a sudden, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is really on the losing end of this. And I don't know what's going on.
The next prompt, you want to read it without the names and then I'll fill in the blanks for you?
Yeah.
Do you want to
do
say?
that?
Yeah.
Okay, so blank snap share in week 2 suggests he may already be overtaking blank on the depth chart.
I feel like we need the game show music that's
Yeah.
like, match game. That one where it's like, bow, 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 bow. Well,
We have to
people
buy
write
that.
their cards.
Talk about
and then they-
1977. I,
know,
feel like
with
you just
the
added a
little
bass to the back.
That is the 1970s. That is
all by
the
yourself.
1970s game show. But then everybody fills in their card,
Yeah.
and then you put it up, and then they read the card. You try and match it. So
Best game show ever? Is that what you're
it's
suggesting?
one of the best ever.
I think
Usually because it went off the rails, much like we tend to do here. So
Family Feud is really tough for me to top just because the
Steve
bloopers
Harvey.
are the best. Steve Harvey is
best.
incredible. So one more time because I derailed this.
I
Okay.
derailed it.
Blank's snap share in week 2 suggests he may already be overtaking blank on the depth chart.
Quinshawn Judkins' snap share in week 2 suggests he may already be overtaking all other Browns running backs on the depth chart. Judkins only played 19 snaps this past weekend. That's not a huge number for running back. But the guy had no training camp. He had like 3 practices.
Ripped off that 30-yard
Yeah.
run.
Yep. He averaged
Looked like the real deal.
5.7 yards per carry after contact. Looked good. Dylan Sampson hardly played. He had a garbage time touchdown to save the day. And then Jerome Ford still played a decent amount. But I think, Jerome Ford is what he is, right? He's not super explosive, not a game changer, not dynamic. So Judkins, his role should only continue to grow as he gets back into football shape more, understands the playbook more, gets more practice time with his teammates. The one huge caveat here is that he might get suspended too. Now, with the NFL, as we know, we don't have any sense of when that could come down, but that would totally change the outlook for some period of time. But for now, I am treating him as the Browns starting running back, and that would probably be somewhere in the RB 25 range. Not top 20 because the passing game value is not there yet. He is a good receiver, but that'll be a little bit of Dylan Sampson, a little bit of Jerome Ford as well.
How available is he?
He is not that available on the ESPN.com.
I think
I want to say like 30%. Yeah.
But if you have a
Worth a
chance,
look. Yeah, take
it
a
might
look.
be worth it because buys are starting in week 4. And if
Are they really a bye in week 4?
yeah, because I looked. I think it's week
God.
week 4 or week 5. Yeah, because one team has maybe it's week 5.
I think it's week 5. Yeah,
Maybe it's week 5. Whatever.
I think it's
Gonna
the
be here
Vikings who
sooner
go.
than we know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's soon enough
Yes.
that if there is no suspension handed down, he might be somebody who could
Yep.
replace.
Last one here.
Last one.
Yep.
Blank disappointed fantasy owners in week 2.
There we go.
But the
All right.
matchup versus
We got our
Blank
game
gives
show
him
music.
an opportunity for a bounce back performance in week 3. One more time, Blank disappointed fantasy owners in week 2, but the matchup versus Blank gives him an opportunity for a bounce back performance in week 3.
This is
I
where
love
we.
this.
Next time I think we all should play and write the card.
I like it,
And
yeah.
then we put it up.
With this music.
Keon Coleman disappointed fantasy managers in week 2, but the matchup against the Dolphins gives him an opportunity for a bounce back performance in week 3.
Thank goodness.
Mike Clay kind of forecasted to us it might be a little bit of Sauce Gardner opposite of Keon Coleman. Saw a little bit of that, but more importantly, the Bills just blew the Jets out, and Jimbo Cook ran for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen hardly played in this game. I mean, he left the game early because Mitch Trubisky went in.
Well, he left the game because his nose was falling apart.
Yes, yeah.
and
then
Mitch
he-
Trubisky went in
And there was a
because of that.
20-point lead.
Yep.
There was
He did return to the
couple
game, and he's totally fine for practice and all that. He was not on the injury report on Monday. But Keon Coleman was one of the victims, if you will, of the Bills' dominance against the Jets. Start your players against the Dolphins. Start them all. I mean, the Dolphins have made in back-to-back weeks Daniel Jones and Drake May look, I think clearly, because it's a smaller sample size, the best game of Drake May's career was last weekend. And Daniel Jones, there were some great games that year they went to the playoffs, so it may not have been his best career game, but Daniel Jones in week 1 looked excellent. He looked excellent in week 2 as well. But this Dolphins defense is just terrible. I mean, they're awful. I think they're the worst in the NFL, at least based off what I've seen so far this season. So the Bills are a dramatic favorite, 13.5-point favorite at ESPN bet for Thursday night. That's a massive line that I'm not sure we'll see a bigger one for quite some time. But Keon Coleman lines up well he may only play half of the snaps on Thursday night because they'll be up by 25 at halftime, but Keon Coleman should be, he has a chance to explode in week 3.
We love a breakout. And I just have to say that I think the Dolphins defense might look even worse than Mike McDaniel's post-game press conferences.
Mike's an interesting cat, that's for sure. Yeah, those post-game press conferences, I think the hard part is that like the court of public opinion has really turned against Mike McDaniel, and the microphone's one of the places that you can earn that trust back. And he's a little quirky, and I think he has now lost more trust.
I don't mind quirky, but that is certainly something. But if we're speaking about the court of public opinion, let's turn our attention back to the
That
public
segue
and our
right
own
there.
mailbag. These are some questions from YouTube. Eric Booty, by the way, still in the chat, answering other ones that we're not featuring here. This is from Maxwell Goldstein. Should I trade A.J. Brown for Javonte Williams?
So, first of all,
Without context of your roster.
I respect the question. I get it. Javonte's got back-to-back games as a top 5 running back.
AJ disappointing.
I wouldn't do this.
No.
Max, I would be doing one of two things. I would either be asking for a significant other piece as part of this deal, or I would just say respectfully, we're going to wait. Like, you can't use a second-round pick on a guy like A.J. Brown and then turn around and sell him for potentially like 50 to 60%, 60 cents on the dollar. You can't do it.
Yeah. Plus, we don't know. It's 2 weeks. And
And we're
Javonte's looked
seeing an
good for
improvement.
2 weeks, but we were concerned about shares in the backfield. I thought Javonte would come out as the number 1 to start the season. All the indications were there, but how long does it last?
Yeah.
Do they try and give Jaden Blue more run?
Also, does his body hold up? Does he start to wear down? This is a player who is not the tackle-busting phenom that he was when he entered the league. And A.J. Brown, in terms of
AJ Brown's AJ
target
Brown.
share, is improving. We are
Yeah,
not
I mean, there's a
regressing. Not
chance
far
that
to go
A.J.
from one target, but
Yeah.
still.
I think there's a chance A.J. Brown's a top 5 receiver for the rest of the way. There's also a chance that Javonte Williams is a top 20 back. I think you'd trade a top 20 back for a top 5 wide receiver.
All right, let's take a look at another question from our mailbag here. This one is from Scott Colburn. Superflex League. Ooh, I love a Superflex, but with all these quarterback injuries, this is interesting. Down Purdy, should I target Mac Jones or Jake Browning? Russ, who was back in vintage moonball form, is claimed.
So I think that my answer would be Mac Jones personally, because he has Brock Purdy already. You don't have to worry about the fact that Mac might have one more start in him. We'll see. I mean, Mac might have 0 more starts in him. It's Tuesday at 10:54. We don't know. There is
Yes,
a
they were
non-zero
surprised
chance.
by how well Brock did during the week. But again, Mac Jones also played so well that they know that they have the latitude to get, it's a long season.
I think we're all in agreement there. All right.
But because like Browning, I don't think that Mac Jones is head and shoulders above Jake Browning every single week. But if you have Mac and Purdy, I would prefer the quarterback room of San Francisco to Jake Browning the rest of the way in Cincinnati.
One more question, or maybe two more if we have time. This one's from Max N2107. When should we start panicking about Brian Thomas Jr.? Well, we already have.
We did.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah. And also a few minutes ago, we did start paying, probably around the same time that you were thinking about putting that question in there. It's real. I think that also just reflects that there are a lot of folks out there. Think about how high he was drafted, so that might have been, depending on how your draft looked, that might have been your first, that probably was your first wide receiver.
Silver lining here, though, I can't veer away from the volume.
Yeah,
and
19
just hope
targets
that
is
the
good.
efficiency is going to improve. If we are buying the Liam Cohen hype, then we have to believe that at some point, even just, a tiny modicum, it will improve. And so there is
Nice word.
a motivation there. Thank you, modicum. That is the word of the day today. Stefania's here, so there's more words. All right, last question from the mailbag. Let's look at this one from Ben. Jalen Warren or Breece Hall? Oh, who's the better consistent play at flex? Consistent, a key word if we're talking about vocab here. I would say that the Jets are not playing, at least over 2 games, consistently.
I was going to say, you
at
can't
all.
use the word consistent and Jets in
Right.
the same sentence.
I mean, I bought hard after week 1
Yeah.
and got
They
bit
look
hard
good.
after week 2.
Yeah,
I prefer, it's a weekly game. I prefer Breece Hall.
Yeah,
for
I
now.
do too.
Like he's a better player. He's a more dynamic player. He's, I think, on the same level, if not better, as a receiver. And Jalen Warren is a good receiver. So to me, this week against the Patriots, if you want to play him because you're worried about what the Buccaneers run defense could do to Breece Hall with Tyrod Taylor there, I guess I'm Breece Hall is my answer.
So, and that
He'll be
just
higher in my
to-
rankings.
I actually think, especially
It's
with
close
Justin,
this
if
week.
Justin Fields is out, Breece Hall is going to touch the ball more.
Yep,
I also
they need
think
him
this
to.
is a situation where talent is a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So if we're choosing between these two, we're looking at draft pedigree, we're looking at
Yeah, and by the way, through 2
versatile
weeks,
skill sets.
each one of them's had a good week. Like it's not like, it sounds after week 2 like Jalen Warren's the more consistent answer. He was not that great in week 1 when Kenneth Gainwell played nearly as much as he did.
That is a good point. I think we made some great points. It was lovely joining you
Great
today.
job, Liz.
Lovely having you
Yeah.
here today.
This was very calm, very conversational.
Yeah, I know.
There's
I
what,
liked it.
16 weeks left of the season?
I think so.
Daniel, enjoy your
Doing it.
16-week vacation, my friends.
Oh, I don't think so. Thank you so much for joining. That's it for our TV cut of Fantasy Focus. But we're not done yet. Head on over to the NFL on ESPN YouTube channel to continue the conversation. We are out for today. Be back on Wednesday with Daniel.